Welcome to a new edition of the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino. On this episode, we talk with surgeon, author, and enthusiast Michael Godin. He has spoken at over 100 medical conferences all over the world. His topics are with rich content, and he speaks with energy and enthusiasm to empower and encourage any audience. Bridging the gap between science and fiction, he explores the creative side of being a facial plastic surgeon and a writer. He volleys his time between both coasts. He has a great story. Enjoy this interview. Michael, it's great to meet you. Thanks for taking a minute out today.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate being on.
You bet. Where are you located?
Right now, I'm in La Jolla, California. I'm looking out the window at the Pacific Ocean. There's big surf today, actually, so it's pretty interesting. But I spend most of my time in Richmond, Virginia, and that's where I have a medical practice, and I have a small one here too. So I'm kind of bi-coastal.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, La Jolla is beautiful. We were out in San Diego a couple of years ago, and my wife stayed behind. I had to come back home, and she got to see sea lions there. It was her best birthday ever. She loved it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, but at any rate, Michael, it's great to meet you. Thanks for taking a minute out. And I want to begin our conversation with, you're very busy, obviously, between coasts as, an author, speaker, surgeon, enthusiast. But what I want to know first and foremost is the last 3.5 years of this pandemic, going through a pandemic was quite a thing. How did you get through that time period, and how did it change you?
It's an interesting question. I just kind of had to survive. It was very challenging for what I do because I'm a facial plastic surgeon, so I'm in people's faces directly, and a respiratory virus is kind of our worst nightmare. So I actually purchased a powered air purifier unit called a PAPR unit. It's like one of those things you saw on TV or you saw in some of the movies, the outbreak type movies. And I actually did treatments in that for about a year. It's got a battery on your belt and it's very loud, and you feel like a spaceman. But so professionally, it affected me quite a bit. For a while, we had to close the office. Our governor mandated no elective surgery. That's my living is elective surgery. So it would be, they kind of outlawed what I did, and I completely understood the PPE was, in demand, and tried to keep the spirits up of my patients, and created several videos, just posted them online, just advice about the pandemic and what to do, and throughout it all, I've been writing, and I continue to write. That's a creative outlet, and so I try to find time for that as well.
So let's get to the heart and soul of all of these things that you do. And I want to put you in front of a bunch of third graders at a career day. And one of the kids looks up at you and asks, "What do you do for a living?" How would you answer that child?
I'm a doctor. That's what I do for a living. That's how I, feed my family and support myself. I see patients. The writing at this point is an avocation, but one that I love and that I am trying to hone in terms of the quality of my writing, and learning the business, of getting books out there, so that when I ultimately decide to stop being a physician, or I guess you never really stop practicing anyway, I'll have that to do, and I think that will be very satisfying to me because what I do is creative. Facial plastic surgery, very creative. You have to have an aesthetic sense, whether it's in surgery or just, using filler and injectables. And then when I sit down to write something, to write a scene, it's a different kind of creative process.
So what did you want to be in the third grade? What was your dream to grow up and become?
Oh, for me as a third grader, I think veterinarian at that time. I'd gone through, definitely wanted to be Batman for a long time, but that was earlier in my career planning. But veterinarian for a while, and then it wasn't until college that I thought I'd be either a doctor or a lawyer. I wanted to go into a profession, so I actually got a degree in biology and a degree in English literature, which helped the writing, and ultimately decided I could maybe help people a little bit more directly by being a physician. So that's what I chose.
So who's been kind of a hero or an inspiration for you in your life?
Oh my gosh. I guess my parents were my first heroes. They did an amazing job with our family. And after that, I don't know. When you go through medical training, of course, some of you get mentors and people who take the time to share with you and to teach you. Teachers throughout, I've had some great teachers, and so those are I guess the people who are in my life and teaching me, inspiring me, are probably my heroes.
So if you can meet anybody alive on the planet right now and spend some time with them, who would it be?
Oh my God. That's a great question. Anybody alive on the planet right now? I don't know. Part of me says, okay, spend some time with James Patterson and find out the insides of this writing business, because it's amazing. There's some wonderful surgeons around the world. I don't know about any celebrities, not really. Um, don't really. I don't really have a specific person I'd like to meet, but maybe as a group of people, the people who are doing what I do very well.
So let me ask you this. What's been the best advice that you've ever gotten?
Be kind. I think kindness is probably the most important thing in life, and um, that's what I've always tried to teach my kids. I've got two boys, and I've always tried to teach them that no matter what you're doing, if it's colored with kindness, it's going to be better for you and better for whoever you're interacting with.
So as a writer, when you were growing up, what was the first book that you ever read that made you really want to read more, or just one of your favorite authors or books?
Oh, well, I think I started with comic books, and went on to Hardy Boys and Black Stallion, and um, the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory was huge. That was my favorite book for a long time. And uh, Even the old Frank Merriwell stories. I don't even know if you've even heard of those. They're very old, but they were all about a guy trying to do the right thing growing up. Comics throughout. And then when I got a little older, started reading a little bit more. I, started reading the classics and enjoyed those. An English literature major, so we had to read a lot. Um, but I always read for fun too, like Confederacy of Dunces. That was one of my favorite books. Just giant comedic farce. I recommend that to people when they're looking for a good read.
So, Michael, every day you wake up, we all have motivations. What gets you out of bed? What gets you to do everything that is a part of who you are and to grow? What's that motivation for you?
Ah, I guess at the end of the day, we've got this one life to live, right? And as far as we know, and I just want to do the best I can with it. And I have a structured life during the week, so that gets me out of bed because I know that first patient's going to be waiting in a chair at 9 o'clock. And I want to be there, not only just show up, but be excellent and try to give them what they need. And then on the weekends, the writing really is a big part of it. I can't. There are times when I can't wait to get up and write my next scene. I know the night before, kind of what it's going to be, and I've kind of been sleeping and letting it percolate in the back of my mind. And when sometimes when I get up on the weekends, I just can't wait to get up and write it.
So, what's been some of the best feedback that you've gotten both as a physician and as a writer?
Uh, the physician, you get feedback from your patients on a daily basis. They love this. They wish this were better. And I take that to heart and just try to be better. Just try to give them an excellent outcome every time. So I think my patients give me so much feedback. As a writer, uh, just criticisms. I have a group of beta readers that read the books that I've written, and some of them are very forthright in terms of this part works and this part doesn't. There's been no singular gem. It's just been advice from patients, advice from people who have read my books in the early stages, whose opinions I respect, and I'm almost getting continual feedback.
So let's say you have a dream tonight, you run into a 20-year-old version of yourself, and you could give that young version of you a piece of advice based on the wisdom you've gained so far in your life. What advice would you give your younger self?
Wear sunscreen more often. I think stretch. I don't know. Just take time to enjoy it. There have been times, particularly in medical training, when I've been working very, very hard, and I don't know that I've taken time to appreciate, the magnitude of, the change that you're making in people's lives. It's just, you kind of get into the grind and you're doing the next thing. So I think that, be in the moment. I think I would tell myself, just, try to savor every moment, because these are, there's going to come a time when things slow down, and you don't have the opportunity to do these things for people anymore.
So, of all of the things that you've done and accomplished and become in your life, what are you the proudest of?
I'd say my family at home and my family at work. Um, I'm very proud of the relationships that I've nurtured at home, and getting my kids off to a good start. And then, at work, it's we really have a work family. We have a wonderful culture in the office. The people I work with, they love each other, and when someone has a birthday, the back room is just filled with, cookies and cards and things, and they go out and do things outside of work, and very shortly we'll have our holiday luncheon, and I'll sit at the head of the table, and there'll be a dozen or more people at that table just enjoying each other, and I look around, and that makes me very happy.
So, everyone out there, Michael, has a perception of you: family, friends, patients, readers, but you ultimately run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think I'm a guy who works pretty hard, and is always trying to get it right and do better. And I think at the same time, I'm also a person who enjoys life. And So there's a kind of I'm a Gemini, May birthday, and so I think there's a pretty hardworking part of me, and there's a part of me that just likes to kind of lay back and enjoy the things that are not work related. So I guess those are the two sides of me.
So, let me ask you this. If you could get into some level of a time machine and go back in time and see one event in human history with your own eyes, where would you go? What would you love to have seen happen?
Oh boy. Um, I think the parting of the Red Sea would have been really cool.
Yeah.
I would have really enjoyed seeing that. Just because I've always had an image in my mind. But there have been so many wonderful and tragic moments in history that would have been amazing to see. It's really hard to pick one, so I'll go with that.
Okay, cool. So, Michael, if anyone wants to get your books, they want to learn more about your practice, anything about your world, reach out to you. How can they do that?
Well, it's very nice of you. The book is available through any bookstore. You just have to say my name and the title, The Big Prick, and we could talk about why it's called that, because that that ended up being a little spicier title than I intended. But so we could talk about that a little
Yeah,
bit. But
that'd be great. Yeah, if we want to do that before we get to how to reach out. Yeah, I'm
okay,
curious.
yeah. Okay, so The Big Prick, the story is about a group of surgical interns starting their surgery training in San Diego in the mid 1980s. And it's not an autobiography, but that's when I did my training. And you just have the beginning of the HIV epidemic, and at that point, we didn't understand it well. People were dying in droves. People were coming in with very distinguishing characteristics of it, and we were doing surgery every night. And particularly when we were not, I was doing facial surgery, facial fractures. So sharp bits of bone, wires, drills, screws. We were getting cut a lot, and we all thought we were going to die. So the big prick was really getting stuck in surgery and with an HIV positive patient. Fortunately, very few of us did die. But there were instances where people did get infected, and later on medical science came up with some great ways to treat it. But at that time, it was a very, very bleak situation. So it works on that level, but it also works on the level of that we had some really sort of misogynistic supervisors at the time in surgery who were certainly big pricks. So there's that as well. There's a little romance in it too. So, but it's been the people kind of react either very positively or sometimes a little bit negatively to the title. I didn't really intend it to be controversial. It just kind of came out that way.
Yeah, I assume that there was a lot more to it. So if anyone wants to pick up The Big Prick, learn more about you, reach out. How's the best way to do that?
They can go on to Amazon and find my name, Michael Godin, and The Big Prick. They can go to msgodin.com. Just those are my initials, msgodin.com. For my medical practice, it's drgodin.com. So just drgodin.com. And they can find out. And, I've seen patients on both coasts. So it's kind of interesting. There's a little tiny bit of cross-pollination between the book and the practice. It wasn't intended, but it's sort of worked out that way a little bit.
Excellent. Michael, this has been wonderful. Thank you, sir, for your time. Thank you for your story. Best of luck with everything. Have a great holiday.
Well, this was my very first podcast interview, and I really appreciate you taking the time, and it was a great experience.
Thanks for tuning in to another famous interview with Joe Dimino, where we cover the world of art, literature, business, spirituality, music, and more from around the globe. Our esteemed theme music was composed and produced by the great E.E. Pointer of Kansas City's River Cow Orchestra. If you want to hear more interviews, visit the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino channel on YouTube. You can also find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Thanks again for listening, and until next time.